Yo, yo.
Fonzie, what's up?
Good episode. Yeah, this might be the start of a new series.
Tell me why.
Tactical Tuesdays.
Tactical Tuesdays.
Or Tactical Thursdays. We don't know.
Coming soon. If you want to be a part of that, go to Contents Profit group on Facebook, community.
And yeah, we're going to be streaming probably those Tactical Tuesdays or Tactical any other day.
What do we talk about today, though?
Today, we just talked about B2B, thought leadership, and content creation. Specifically, if you're trying to get eyeballs from the right people into your content.
Specifically on LinkedIn, I like that a lot. It's like, how do you actually get eyeballs on LinkedIn? We broke down the organic strategy, the paid strategy, why personal profiles on LinkedIn are better than a business account.
How can you influence the buyer's journey of your prospects? Which I thought was pretty interesting too.
We talked about key KPIs. There's a lot of discussion about KPIs, what to measure around content.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I think it was one of the first times that we do something straight on super specific, and I really enjoyed it. We're definitely gonna do more of this.
We also share Fonzie's OnlyFans.
Yeah, if you wanna join my OnlyFans, make sure you listen to the whole episode.
All right, guys, enjoy. For those wondering, Fonzie has an OnlyFans. Just said.
Actually, we have one together. Not just that you're getting the volume of the people that you want, but you're getting the right people to look at it, which are the people that can make the buying decisions and the people that influence those people that make the buying decisions.
You gotta take inventory of your resources and manage them in a way that they're gonna allow you to do all these things.
Yeah, it's either going to be a tax on your time or a tax on your money.
Oh, you know what I didn't do?
Nobody cares.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Nobody cares.
That's fine. We're gonna have a throwback on the intro. We got the old school intro.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it.
Here we go.
We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And I'm
doing some
Luis.
things that I
And you're
know you
listening to the
haven't
Content
heard
is
before.
Profit podcast.
Where we talk about entrepreneurship, mindset, and of course, how to turn your content into profit.
But most importantly, we're here to have a good time with you. Oh, yeah, baby.
So go to contentprofit.com to get started today and join the community.
Good save, Fonzie. Good job.
That's what I said. We went old school. You forgot your part.
Good job. I never memorized it. So that's a false statement because I always read.
Whoa.
I just didn't read.
You got to read the colors in there. There we go.
Yeah, we got some comments coming in. I heard there was an open bar. Maybe after the episode, if you're in Jacksonville, Florida, come visit.
I know.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Mike is going to Japan. He's about to live the Saki lifestyle over
The
there.
Saki lifestyle.
Guys, but today we have an incredible guest, and we're going to be diving all into exploring the most successful B2B content strategies.
Ooh.
And honestly, we're probably going to dive into so much more just because today's guest has a pretty unique expertise that is very valuable in the B2B world,
I love it.
aka negotiations.
Yes. Guys, if you've been enjoying the show every single day of the week, live or in your favorite podcasting platform, go ahead and give us a follow. Go ahead and send us a review. Anything, an honest review. We love all of them. Thank you guys so much for the support, and follow us on social media at BIZBROS.
That is right. And if today's guests help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and like my brother said, leave a review. Thank you.
Buckle up because we're going deep into B2B content strategy with today's guest.
That is right. Today's guest company is the one behind some of the top B2B thought leaders' success.
Not only that, he's actually a master negotiator and the host of the Content Call Out podcast. Let's dive in.
I gotta throw this out there too. I noticed. I checked his LinkedIn. He's Canadian, and
He supports our theory about Canadian people. Yeah, he supports our theory.
All successful people are either from Canada or Iowa. And I also noticed that he went to Harvard. It's pretty epic. Yeah, I wanna talk more about that, guys. Please welcome the founder of Content Call Out and B2B thought leader, Mark Raffan.
My God. Oh my God!
Let's go.
What an amazing intro!
We just need to figure out how to get like confetti on your room when this happens, like unexpectedly, you know?
Just imagine it in the background right now.
Yeah, it's like
there's people dancing in the background. Everyone's having a great time.
Yeah.
It's fantastic over here.
Mark, we said we were going to leave the XXX rated version for OnlyFans later, right? With the
that's for the
dancing and all that
OnlyFans
stuff.
episode, everyone. We're going to save that for later, all right? You'll be able to dive into my sexual practices. Maybe I'll show you a couple of things. How to last for less than 1 minute. Woo!
There we go.
If that's what you guys are into, that's totally okay. I'm gonna go play soccer with my kids. I'm all good. But Mark, all jokes aside, thank you, man, so much for coming on. I was on your show. Was it earlier this week, or earlier this week, and had a great time, man. Thank you so much for bringing. So everybody that's listening today, go on and check out Mark's show. We're gonna leave it right in the links.
The Content Call Up podcast.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
So
thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad. I'll be like, yes, checked. FONZI, we did not miss you. Anyways.
It's all good.
Mark, tell us.
You can do a part 2 with me and it's going to be way better, I promise.
That's right. Yeah, we're saving the good stuff for last, right?
We'll get you more downloads.
Yeah.
Mark, let's dive right in, right? Like we talked a little bit about B2B, right? We have, on our side, we have our frameworks, but I'm very interested. Like, what have you seen in all these years of experience working with these companies? Like, what is something super cool about content in the B2B world? Like, what's something that people can implement?
I think the biggest thing that people need to think about, especially if it comes to B2B content, is that it's the generator of the conversation, right? And so much of the things that we sell in B2B are high ticket value items, right? So generally speaking, most people aren't going to be coming into your website to go, hey, that thing cost $100,000. I think I'll buy it. Like, that's just not going to happen. So it starts to generate the conversation, and it starts to guide the person through the potential buying process that they may be going through. Because the fact of the matter is, more than 90% of your customers aren't going to be ready to buy yet. But the goal for content into B2B marketing is to make sure that when they are ready to buy, they think of you first. So having that content available to them so that they can consume it on an ongoing basis, so that you're continuing the conversation, whether it's owned content on your website or whether it's on social, is really critical to your success.
I love it. Keeping in mind that customers do their own research too right now, right? Like they walk themselves through that customer journey. Their buying process is not anymore dictated by the companies itself. They have
your
the
customer
power.
is educating themselves. And look, the fact that this is the key thing that a lot of people, this is where they get hung up on content, is if you're a company in B2B and you're not considering content, and I ask you, hey, your customer, are they educated, generally speaking, when they come and speak to you? Like, they know what questions to ask, that kind of stuff, when they have a conversation with you? Most of my customers are saying, yeah, of course they are. They know kind of what they want to buy. We just have to sort of guide them through that process. The question I ask to my customers is, how did they know that? Where did they find out that information? If it's not with you, it's with your competitors. Do you want to be the person that guides the conversation to your competitors or to yourself?
Yeah.
I like that frame. Do you want to be the person that guides the conversation, right? And we're talking here a lot about that top of mind awareness, right? And at the end of the day is when these customers experience a specific problem, you want them to pop in their mind as the solution. Oh, I want answers around this topic. Cool. I should go and check out Mark, right? Or check out the BIZBROS, whatever. So I really like your point of view on just like guiding the buyers and not, obviously I'm guessing you have some sort of call to action, some sort of incentives to get people to take action, turn that 90% into, let's say, the 3% that is ready to buy today. So how are some ways that you are transitioning the people, right, into a not buying mindset, into a more of I'm ready to purchase?
So there's a need that needs to exist, right? So if you can tell someone, here's what the benefits of content marketing are, here's some of the challenges that you're probably facing as a company, here's how content helps to solve those challenges, helps to solve those problems, they're starting down the path. So if we sort of think of the traditional marketing funnel, awareness, interest, and action, just 3 big buckets.
Yeah.
Moving them from awareness to interest is going to be something that happens as a result of them becoming aware of a problem within their business and them searching for ways to solve that problem, searching for ways to overcome that challenge. If content fits into that, you want to be a part of that conversation, obviously. Here's how you can solve that problem that you're having with content. And then talk broadly about that. That doesn't need to be focused on your company just yet. It's just, how do you solve those things? Oh, by the way, if this is something that you think you can solve with content, maybe take a look at us. Here's how we fit into that mix. Here's how that we talk about those things. Now we're moving them to action, potentially. Set up a conversation, right? Call to action, book an appointment, set up a call, whatever your CTA is, and then have a conversation. You're not there yet. You're still not ready to close that sale. All that's doing is getting you to the next step. Your job in this process isn't to focus on selling the customer on the first call. It's to set up the next call.
Yeah.
Because they're still not going to be ready to buy yet. So have a conversation, make sure it's fully transparent, walk them through the process, be as helpful as you can be. Keyword, be a decent human being. And then ask for this next call and say, hey, listen, if this is of interest to you and we've answered some of your questions, does it make sense for us to continue the conversation? Let's book that in right now.
Absolutely.
I think in that stage that you mentioned, right, on the education part, it's key, right? Like, so there's so much direct response out there, or direct response wannabe out there, especially, you know, from the community that we started a few years ago. We saw a lot of that, and that was like our entire world, right? And as we launched the show and as we explored like new avenues, this world has opened up. And I think one element there that people can maybe take action today is like, what is some piece of market research, right, that you can put out there in these pieces of content, in sharing, in whatever avenue you produce your content. But that's going to position yourself as the expert, right? And then from there, people are going to continue to ask questions because you are positioned as the expert in that field. So I think that's something important that we can put in there in those areas that you mentioned, Mark. And then I'm curious, like, content is obviously a big bucket, right? In many ways, we preach podcasting because of the relationships and the two-way funnel that platform creates, right? Front end with audience, and then back end with the relationship with that person that you bring into your show, whether that's referrals, clientele, like further relationship, long-term, different things, can be many things. But when you talk content, right? Like what specifically, like what channels do you normally recommend in your market, right? And you can describe a little bit of your market too, like what type of companies you serve, but like what is the channel? Is it in content? Is it podcasting? Is it video? Is it micro content? Like what specifically, or is it completely custom depending on like the type of industry and the type of people that you're chasing?
Yeah, it depends on the industry and it depends on the company that you're generally working within. And I would argue that the type of content that you produce has less to do with how someone's going to take it, more to do with where your customers hang out. Mm-hmm. So first think about where are my customers, right? Like where do they exist? Where do they hang out? Where do they associate together? Do they hang out at trade shows physically? Then I'm going to have actual written content for them. Do they hang out online? Do they hang out on LinkedIn? Do they hang out on Twitter? Do they hang out on TikTok? Where are my customers? First, figure that out. Then build the content to suit the platform where they hang out. And generally speaking, for most B2B organizations, you got two big segments. One is owned, right? You want to have SEO-based content to drive long-term growth to your website, and then you're going to distribute that through paid as well. And you also have social, and most of the time for B2B, it's on LinkedIn. So those are the two biggest areas where you're going to play. There's some finer intricacies that exist within both of those areas, but for B2B, that's where you need to be.
I love this, and I love this because so many times, and we found this too, like we worked in the real estate side of things mostly, and it's funny because we have conversations with CMOs, right? And these are companies that have 80 people staffed, and the way that they approach content is like if they were doing D2C, right, direct to consumer, and then they are the ones trying to build this thing, right? And you know, your show, we talked about the concept of the publishing pyramid, right? We have the resources and capacities, right? And more than likely, if you're a B2B company, you have resources, right? You have a team that you could potentially deploy these systems, right? So what Mark was sharing right now is so important to identify like where do we fit in those buckets, right? Because you can tackle from like day one these platforms. You can do the research, right? You probably can assign resources to find out where your customers is. If you're already know where they are, which you probably do, right? You can deploy this massive system instead of going and try to create something for the sake of it. We talk a lot about remove the friction from the creation side of things, but this is aimed for the creator that maybe don't have the resources to go and tackle something like this, right? But in this sense, I think this is very smart, where you can maybe prep for a week or two and be like, okay, this is strategically where we're gonna show up what are we going to put out there? Is the needs, we're sharing market research, and then that's going to position in this way. And then can we measure, right? Can we measure? How important is measuring these campaigns or these efforts, right? Like, how can people start setting up, or how can companies start setting up the tracking of their efforts, right? What are some key KPIs that people can be looking for?
I think let's maybe, before we get into that, something you said there was really, really important about identifying where your customers are. The success of your content is primarily dependent, especially in the B2B world, is dependent on two things. Number one, the quality of the content that you produce has to be really high quality, because most of your customers are probably really, really well researched on this already, right? They're already consuming content, which means that the level of conversation you need to have is at a higher level.
Yeah.
So the quality of your content needs to be really good. The second most important thing in the content equation, which is the same across all platforms, is the eyeballs on that content. Not just that you're getting the volume of the people that you want, but you're getting the right people to look at it, which are the people that can make the buying decisions and the people that influence those people that make the buying decisions. So ensuring that you have good organic growth on LinkedIn or your own website or whomever it is, getting that traffic, getting those eyeballs is really important. Whether it's organic or paid, that's besides the point. We can get into the differences between those in a little bit, but that's really, really critical. Then and only then can you start determining the effectiveness of that content. Because if you've written content to an audience and that audience isn't viewing that content, that's not the content's fault. That's just because you're not driving the traffic to that content.
Yeah.
So you can really only start viewing the effectiveness of the content and the KPIs around it if you first identify who should be seeing it. Then once you can identify that, then start thinking about things like, okay, how many people viewed this content? How many if you've got good links in the content, good CTAs, what's the click-through rate that we're getting on this content? Are people actually booking meetings? Do they want to view more information? Did they enter that email nurture stream to teach them more about this thing? There's a bunch of different ways that you can start measuring the success of that content. And then ultimately, once they move down the funnel, is that bottom of funnel content generating conversations for your sales team?
I think that's very interesting. And I'm curious on, I'm playing a scenario here in my head. What about somebody comes to you, right? And they might not have the biggest audience. They have a regular presence in social media. They, maybe write a weekly post on LinkedIn or share something like once a week, right? They're not very active, so they don't have an active following, but they're looking to ramp up, right? They're looking to become the thought leaders in this space. What would be some of the steps that you would take to help them get the right eyeballs in their content, right? And I'm pretty sure you do a lot of written content. I was looking at your website, and you even have a application for writers. So if you're listening and you're a writer and you're great and you're looking for some, to help a great company, make sure you contact Mark in here. But I'm curious, how do you start getting those right eyeballs into those pieces of content?
Let's focus on LinkedIn, because it sounds like that's what we're going to be talking about. So on LinkedIn, there's two ways to do it. One is paid and one is organic. So let's just think of it from a company perspective and then an individual perspective. From the company perspective, generally speaking, your company page on LinkedIn gets about 5 times less reach than a personal profile does. Personal profiles organically get way more reach. You may ask why. It's primarily because LinkedIn wants to monetize.
Absolutely.
Right? So the more that LinkedIn can force a company to buy ads, the better it's going to be for LinkedIn. They want to make money.
Yeah.
So a way around that organically, if you're tight on cash to begin with, is to develop your personal profile on LinkedIn so that you get the organic reach, so that you can drive that going forward. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it costs you less money overall, because you're going to be spending more time on that. But in terms of dollars out of your bank account, it's a great way to be able to do that. Now, let's just say, for example, you don't have that problem. You're flush with cash and you want to go and do those things. You need to have both a paid strategy and you need to have an organic strategy. So the paid strategy is like sending out an ad on LinkedIn that's super targeted to the customer group that you're trying to reach to. And LinkedIn's great because you can target down to the title of the person in the industry, even target down to the individual company that you want to start doing work with.
Yeah.
So you can go really, 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 really tight on the targeting of the person or the persona that you want to reach to, and have a budget. You shouldn't be doing this with less than $2,000 a month on media spend, because otherwise you're wasting your time. Then, and by the way, if you don't know how to do that, find someone who knows how to do that and pay them very well to do that, because otherwise you'll also be wasting money on that.
Yeah.
But on the organic side of things, on your personal profile, you need to start connecting with people who are either the buyers of the thing that you want to sell to them, or the people that influence the buyers of the people you want to sell to. So let's just say, for example, the ICP that you've identified, your ideal customer profile, is a Fortune 500 consumer goods company that you want to sell into for a new software product that you've developed. Who is the target buyer at that company? It's probably going to be the VP of IT or the VP of marketing, or someone who's maybe a CIO, someone who is the person who would, generally speaking, buy those things. How many of those people do you have in your network on LinkedIn? If it's not a lot, and you're not getting good traction on your content, you probably know why now. So you need to start connecting with those people.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So
let me add something here real quick. We often talk about the publishing pyramid, right? One of our frameworks. And at the very top is capacity and resources. And you did mention, hey, if you don't have a budget of, I think it was like $2,000 to invest into ads, like don't even think about it, right? Or even go and hire somebody that can do it way better than you and pay them well. So obviously that fits into the resources bucket. So I want, the person listening right now to start thinking about what are the resources that I have available at this time to start investing into this type of strategy. So if you're looking into LinkedIn, if you have the budget, right, for, great marketing, go and hire somebody that can help you out. But if you don't, then you're going to have to measure your time, because that is your other prime resource that you have that you can invest into this growth. And then you're going to have to set time aside to start doing the connections, start doing the writing of the content or video, whatever it is that you decide. But you got to learn, you got to take inventory of your resources and manage them in a way that they're going to allow you to do all these things.
Yeah. It's either going to be a tax on your time or a tax on your money.
Yep.
And then you're going to have to find a way to tax other people within your organization with those things, if you have a big organization big enough to handle it.
Have you found a trend on how people or how companies like roll this strategy out, right? Like do they initially go all out and do both, like the organic side and the paid side, or do they start on the organic side and then they test that initially and then they move into the paid? Like what's a normal strategy on LinkedIn that you tend to see?
It depends on how big the organization is, and it depends on how much money they have. Most companies, if they're tight on cash, they're starting with organic first because they can afford the time, but maybe not necessarily the money. Yeah. So they're going to focus their strategy on building out their organic reach a lot more and building out the content organically a lot more. And then they're going to start building out sort of the paid side of things as well. Ideally, I'd love to see people do both.
Yeah.
But the reality of the situation is most people start organically.
Yeah. I feel like they want to. Yeah, I feel like they want to test the message too, right? I mean, like you said, are we talking to the right people? Are we sharing the right message? And I feel like once you nail those down, it's just going to be better once you start pouring, money into it. It's gasoline. We've talked about this a very long time ago with one of our guests, that she was like, hey, like if you have a crappy message and you just put money behind it, like it's not gonna fix it. It's still gonna be crap.
Yeah, you're just wasting your money.
Exactly, you're just wasting your money. So you gotta nail down those things before investing in it.
Yeah, yesterday I was submitting some of the reportings for the podcast as far as like the reach. We started to test paid different campaigns and different things, and I was looking through the numbers, right, and I was like comparing like a really good month from the organic side versus like what we did on the campaign, and it took us like 2 days to reach the amount of downloads that we had in like one of the best months on the organic side of things. But here's the follow-up, right? Like how sticky, right, is that paid into the podcast, right?
Yeah,
So
did they listen?
Exactly. Well, the listen, I think like the click-through rate of the ad was about 20%. And then people that stay listen, I think it was like 85% that stayed to listen to the full episode. That was amazing. So the people that checked it out, amazing. Now the stickiness is not just on the episode. It was how sticky are they on the show, right? How sold are they on the show? So, subscribers, for example, in that campaign, it increased on just Apple Podcasts because it's the only data that we got. It was about 5%, right? And I'm like, okay, well, that's something, that's a baseline. And then it's like, how can we measure against that? And now we can start testing different things. So I think like part of the lesson there is like, how can you start rolling things out where you can actually measure them in a bucket and then try the next thing, right? So combine those with what Mark is saying, like on LinkedIn, and we have little to no experience on LinkedIn, right? Like what we do is we just reshare the content that we're doing for the podcast. We live primarily on Facebook because it's where we kind of build the initial audience. So this is super interesting to me because we might be moving to LinkedIn at some point. We're actually about to start testing a LinkedIn strategy for the podcast, and we'll see how that goes. But
the interesting thing about like paid stuff for podcasts is the only reason you're doing paid is to get new listeners. And if you think of it from that perspective, like there almost has to be a custom piece of like a custom podcast for the new listener that you're driving people to do. So, hey, new listener, welcome to the blah, blah, blah. Because once they're a listener, they're not going to listen to that episode again. They're going to move on to the next episode.
Yeah, 100%. And I love this because, right, we talk about B2B and like a lot of the things that we talk is like, how do you actually connect that content into the profit? So for us, that was a very random summation of what episodes we put in there. Now we're being a little bit more strategic on what that is for. But for a B2B, right, that they're publishing a podcast, what you just mentioned is key, right? It's like, what is a piece of content that you create specifically, right, to welcome those new listeners and then transition them into that journey, right? Like, what is that journey? What are the next episodes that you're going to be listening to? Kind of like that email subscriber campaign that we continue to educate that customer on what the company does, the stories and the different things and changing beliefs depending on where they come in. So I see like a lot of correlation. I love this and all these patterns. Yeah. And as people start executing, I think they're going to find that out. Yeah.
I'm going to throw an idea out there for that one, the people that want to execute this one for their podcast. Like you said, going off of, you cannot need to create something very specific that people follow a path. Going back to what we talked at the very beginning, right? Like, what is that buyer's journey that we can potentially craft, right? And influence people to follow on their own? Why don't we do a 3-5 episode series of your podcast? And then you start, as soon as you start targeting those people, you transform them into own media, right? You either get their email, get them on your email list. And the follow-up sequence is just, hey, listen to episode number 2. You have it trigger something that lets you know that they listened to episode number 2. Hey, this is episode number 3, right? Just like guide them through that journey. So then at the end of the 5 episodes, I think it was the stat. Like if they listen to 5 episodes, they're probably hooked and they're going to keep listening to a little bit more. Yeah. So that way you're probably increasing your chances of retaining listeners on your podcast.
Makes a ton of sense to me.
I think we should try that one. That'd be fun. And then compare a baseline.
Yeah. The best ideas always come out of these episodes, Mark. Just gonna put that out there. We have like a list of different things. But Mark, as we wrap up, right? Like if we have listeners that are in the B2B world, right, they're starting maybe that journey into content creation, like what's something that they can do today to start, getting some traction?
Start writing on, I know it sounds like super simple and like overly simplified, but you have no idea what's going to work yet. So just start posting stuff. I look at content through 3 lenses, especially on LinkedIn. Is it entertaining? Is it informative? And is it educational? And if you can hit 2 out of 3 of those things, you're going to do super well. So just start writing, then review. Is it educational? Is it entertaining? Is it informative? And then move on. Start writing.
I love it. Simple and effective.
Easy peasy. Well, not easy. Simple, but not easy, right?
Not easy, but it is simple.
Exactly.
It is simple.
Simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
Like, where would you be if you did not publish?
I don't know. I'd probably be working a really shitty job that I hate. In fact, I know I'd be working a really shitty job that I hate. In fact, that's exactly why I started doing this. Like, because I had a shitty job that I hated.
What was the shitty job that you hated?
I mean, I worked in the procurement world for a really long time, and I love procurement, but I was in a job that just wasn't feeding my soul, and I knew that I needed to do something for myself.
Yep.
And it just wasn't in the corporate world. It wasn't working for me. And so I started my own thing. I love procurement and I love those people and I loved the work itself, but the corporate environment was just killing me.
Yeah.
So I had to go.
Random question here before we wrap up. I had these questions in the beginning. I had to ask. In your LinkedIn says that you went to Harvard. How was that? What do you learn in there?
Yeah, I was part of the program on negotiation, which is the program on negotiation is like a think tank, the world's leading think tank on negotiation, and it's based in Cambridge, and basically all of the sort of top thought leaders on negotiation work out of that institute.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to go and study with some of those folks for a little bit of time. I don't want to make it sound like I've got some amazing, like high level education.
That is
Harvard.
some amazing high level education on negotiation.
It was pretty cool. I got to study with some amazing people that I really, really respect. And yeah, it was just an incredible time.
That is so cool. We're definitely going to have to do a just negotiation.
Let's do it. I'm happy to do it.
I think that's such an important skill, right? In this world, especially in content too, like the people that we connect and that. So yeah, absolutely. That would be like a one-off episode that we can do that. That's
yeah, that'd be awesome.
One of my favorite books of all time, Never Split the Difference. Oh, so good.
Chris Voss, yeah.
Yes, and it was
nice guy.
highly recommended. That I read that when I was starting sales in the fitness studio a bunch of years ago. And
yeah, he's a nice guy. We've had him on our negotiation show a few times.
That's
cool.
Pretty awesome. Mark, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
Easiest place to connect with me is contentcallout.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anyone. Here's the important thing, though. If you do connect with me, let me know that you listen to me on this show.
Ask him for access to OnlyFans. No, kidding.
Yeah, what's the discount code for the OnlyFans account?
You know exactly where they came from if they go. They go ask you that. That's funny. Come on, Fonzie.
Hey,
Yeah.
I had to throw it out there.
For those wondering, Fonzie has an OnlyFans. Just said.
Actually, we have one together. We share it.
Oh man,
This is escalating very quickly.
This one sounds very quick.
Is the AC on, man? What's going on? Okay. Mike, is there anything else you want to add before we head out?
No, listen, thank you so much for having me, folks. Folks, if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I have a consulting company or I have a B2B company that I want to get started producing more content, I'd love to talk with you. If you ever have the opportunity to connect with me on LinkedIn, let's talk.
Absolutely, guys. We encourage it. Go check him out. Go connect with Mark.
Fonzie, you? Anything else you want to add?
Dude, no, this was epic. This was sweet, straight to the point. It was a lot of fun, man. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys.
With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning to the Content Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And if Mark here helped you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. And go and check out Mark dancing over here.
Bye,
See you guys.